Going out for a cruise today to take the girls to the splash pad. Can I get a hell yeah, girls? Can I? No, they won't do it. Anyway, so I thought I would tell my story of my tornado experience because our town was just hit by a tornado. I'll see if I can't drive past some of the damage. It was a baby tornado, but you don't know that till after it's gone. Like, when a tornado comes, it's so quick in that, like, if it's had a lot of time to build up, you can get a rough idea of the strength of the tornado. But pretty much, you just know there's a tornado. You don't know if it's an F5, which will uproot your house and tear up roads, or if it's like an F0 that'll just break a bunch of branches and twist up some trees. This turned out to be somewhere around an F1, which is like just strong enough to, if it hits a weaker foundation building or a house isn't built quite right, it can lift up the roof or collapse a barn or something like that. And pretty much for the only damage in this town was knocked over an irrigation and it broke up some trees. So needless to say, I'm fine. So it kind of makes the story a little bit funnier actually because the tornado is so small. So basically it all starts out playing Grand Theft Auto, and then my phone starts going off and it's like extreme weather, you know, take shelter immediately. Obviously my girl panics immediately and she's like, oh my god, let's get to the basement. I'm like, well, hey, let me just get to a save point on Grand Theft Auto, and then we'll wind up going to the basement after that. No point in rushing, because typically the weather alerts are a little bit early, so you have at least like 5 minutes. So anyway, get to my save point, go down in the basement, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do while I'm down there? Because the whole alert, like the take shelter time was something like 15 minutes, or was it a half an hour? I think it was a half an hour. That's when the supercell would be over top and then no more risk of a tornado. Because it's not like they can pinpoint exactly where the tornado is. They're just like, hey, this is a supercell. Conditions are right. Anywhere in this storm, a tornado can drop down. Like I said, it's not like they could be like, okay, so this is a supercell. The tornado always drops down in the front, the middle, the back. And supercells are miles wide. That's a nice set of burnouts right there. Supercells are miles wide, so at any point whatsoever inside of that cloud formation, they can drop a tornado. Like sometimes there'll even be towns where a tornado will go through, and then another one in that same supercell will drop right behind it and go through the same path. So they're getting hit by two different tornadoes. It's pretty rare, but it can happen. I'm just trying to highlight how, like, it's not really predictable. You know the storm that it might come from, but you don't know where in the storm or anything like that. So anyway, the warning was like 15 minutes or half an hour. So I'm sitting down there pretty bored. And like, all of a sudden the lights flicker. Like, they flickered a little bit. I'm like, wow, there must really be some wind out there. Some power lines touched at least a branch. And then they come back on for a second. And then they flicker and shut off. And it kind of sucks because I live in the middle of nowhere and I basically use Wi-Fi to make phone calls and everything like that. So as soon as the power shuts off, I basically don't have an ability to call out. So I'm like, well, this is lame. I can't get any more weather report updates or anything like that. And I definitely know the storm is right on top of us because it took out our power, because power works in a grid pattern. So it's in our grid. And then all of a sudden the noon whistle starts blowing. I'm like, wow, this is really getting serious. And then the little rain protectors on my basement, those fly off and take off. And I'm like, holy crap, everyone under a blanket now. And I look out the window and I see the tree, because I can look up at an angle, just swaying and rocking left and right. And I'm like, wow, this one's bad. Because like the last time I've had a tornado that close to me, I was a kid and the funnel cloud went over top of our house. It touched down before our house and after our house, but it hopped over our house. So when it went over our house, it just like ripped open all the doors. And that was the other time when it was like really close to me. This one was like within a couple of miles, like 2 miles, something like that, maybe 3. Anyway, so the sirens start blowing. I'm like, you know, this is really getting serious here. You know, shit's getting real. So I cover us all up with blankets, because when your house explodes, like let's say it was an EF5 and it hit my house, it would totally just rip it off the foundation. It would splinter everything to shit, and all the glass and splinters and all that turn into shrapnels. I'm pretty safe because I'm in a basement. Yeah, stuff can fall on me. Like you'd have the fridge fall down on you, and tornadoes are constantly dropping debris, so when the upper half of your house is missing, you know, things will rain down on you. So it's always a good idea to throw like a blanket or something over you, some sort of protection over debris. I would have put body armor on my friends, but on my family, but unfortunately that's all gone right now. So lights are out, tornadoes blowing, we have no weather update. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could at least see. And I had this flashlight that my daughter got me for Christmas. She got it from the Santa Secret shop. I mean, don't get me wrong, the thing shines brighter than my future. However, it's just this little crappy, like, $2 or $3 flashlight. It's not like the nice lights I normally have in my house. So, I got this flashlight, and I'm like, you know, this kind of sucks, because if we get leveled, it's going to turn into a scene from, like, Kill Bill, where she's in the coffin with the flashlight. I don't know how long this thing's going to last. I don't know when the fresh batteries are in there. So I also got this candle, so we had to wait for that to go by. Again, you know, thank God it missed us, and thank God it was just a little baby tornado, but you don't know that at the time. You don't know if it's an EF0 or an EF1000. You just don't know. It could be any of those size tornadoes, and that's actually why all these construction crews are out. I'm assuming they're going in and inspecting the power lines, because there were a few poles snapped off and some power lines down. But needless to say, at that moment you have no idea what's happening, where it's going to land. Even if the tornado's spotted 30 miles from town, another one can drop right on top of you. The whole point of it being spotted 30 miles from town is that supercell is capable and willing to drop a tornado. And it can happen anywhere underneath. So needless to say, I might have peed my pants a little bit. I was pretty nervous about that. Definitely, oh, this is farmers, this ain't a construction crew. It's all the combines. They take those things and they basically shuttle, because if you take a semi out in the field, it's liable to get stuck. So these combines pick, and then those little shovel things, the combines unload in there and they shovel back and forth to the semis, so the semis don't have to go out in the field. They just started picking. I wonder if it's beans, because I think it's about bean season. Anywho, back to the story. So you don't know exactly where it's going to drop, if it's going to drop on you, if it's headed directly towards you, how strong it is, because like an EF0 inside your house, you're totally safe. It might snap some branches, might remove a little bit of shingles, but you are good to go. An EF5, you better be in a basement. There's a bunch of the damage right there. This is pretty much just straight line wind damage. You can tell the difference because straight line wind damage, all the trees will be laying in one direction. Where like a tornado, which we'll see the damage right up ahead, everything will be scattered. It'll look more like you had a handful of toothpicks and you threw it at the ground. I don't know if you guys can see that right there, but all those trees are bent at a northeastern angle. Straight line wind. All these trees right here, all straight line wind. But up ahead, you'll be able to tell it's tornado because, like I said, it looks like somebody just took a handful of toothpicks and tossed it at the ground. They'll be spiraled. Oh, I wish I had my camera pointed out my window right now so you can just see this whole woods right here is just leveled from wind. Not a tornado, just wind. It's quite interesting because I didn't know the difference when I was a kid, so I thought tornado strikes were a lot more common. Again, I wish that I could have my camera going out the passenger window. I should almost just stop because it like ripped the top off those silos and it ripped up that barn roof, which puts it into EF1 category because EF0 won't have enough power to do that. Maybe I'll just turn the car real quick. Let me see what the angle looks like. Yeah, I can just swing the car in right here real quick and then shine it around so you guys can see some EF1 damage. But yeah, so that's the difference. When you're talking about like broken branches, like what you see right ahead of us, this is like EF1 because there's a house right there, there's no roof damage, but the trees are damaged, so that's EF0. It didn't hit EF1 category. But now if you look across the field, I'll see if I can zoom in with my computer software, but you'll notice the silo tops are missing off those two silos, and then the one barn in the background there, like half of it's missing. So that puts it into EF1 category. Remember, wind speed doesn't actually define the tornado. What they do is they look at the damage after the tornado's been through. There's a little bit of damage right there. What they do is they look at the damage after the tornado's been through, and depending on what damage it actually did is what rating it gets. So for example, oh, this building's missing its roof. I wish, maybe I'll catch that in the footage. I'll have to go back and look. Anyway, so let's say an EF5 goes through an open field with no structures to destroy, and at the end of the open field, even though it had a wind speed of 300 miles per hour, at the end of the open field there's a little oak tree that snaps off. That would get an EF0 rating because that's the only damage it caused. Yes, it had the wind speeds of an EF5, but because it didn't impact anything to cause EF5 damage, it doesn't get counted, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so this is where it touched down right here. Should have set up like 3 or 4 cameras around my car. But up ahead, you'll be able to see clear tornado damage if they didn't already clean it up. It's pretty much cleaned up. But this yard, like all the trees were laying in random ass directions, and that's tornado. That's not straight line wind, because they would all be pushed in one direction. But a little bit over to the right too, there's some more damage. We'll go take a look at that. Sorry about that, my camera overheated and shut itself down, so you missed the actual like tornado damage. So we're gonna go back and take another look at it. I put the AC on my camera and cooled it off, so hopefully that'll do it. Alright, so right up here is like the main, like, okay, that is tornado damage. So right up here it must have been just about to the ground because it got the top of the tree, like right there. But it didn't really come down and get the tree. Now up ahead, and again, like the tornado movement is very unpredictable. So it was on that side of the road, but then you look on this side of the road right here, you'll see the irrigation system's down. Like it's completely toppled. So it must like zigzagged, went across the road because there's a pretty big pothole there too, and then back over to this side. And everything's twisted. It's not just pushed over in one direction. Then it kind of went through this little woods, which you guys can't see because my camera's pointed in the wrong direction. And then came right here, knocked over all this crap. Again, everything, sorry about that, I had to help my girl out. Everything is not pushed in one direction. Yeah, there is some stuff pushed northeast because that's the direction the wind was going, but it's snapped off and it's laid to the left, to the right. It's all random. Knock some trees down right there. We turn around this guy's driveway. Thank God it wasn't really stronger than an EF1, otherwise this house was in the direct path and it would have been leveled. If this was like an EF2, EF3, you would have had major structure damage to the house, but they lucked out. And that was cool. But yeah, otherwise that house would have been gone. But anyway, so that's basically the gist on what it's like living. Now they call Tornado Alley a specific spot, but when you actually look at the amount of tornadoes that hit, Tornado Alley is like from Wisconsin, probably up into Canada, and basically all the way down. It's just where the cold and warm air meets, and the Rockies just funnel it through. So it always happens there. But so that's what it's like living in Wisconsin. You'll have at least minimal one near miss with a tornado living in Wisconsin. It's just the way it is. It's a part of life. Sometimes you have more, but you always have at least one. There will always be like the next county over got hit or something like that. But the actual like, you're in the path of a tornado, typically it only happens a couple of times in your life. Like I said, this is only the second time where it was like really, really close to me. Otherwise, I've always been like 10 minutes behind it if I was driving the truck route, or like it was always a county over. But like right on top of me, which I consider within a couple of miles, because as long as you're under the supercell, one can drop anywhere. It's only like the second time in my life. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this drive. I'll wind up coming up here to the stop sign and then let the engine sing a little bit. Unfortunately, we're not going to be doing a burnout because I don't want to have to replace my tires. I'll let the engine sing for a little bit, and then you guys have a good day. If you'd like to help support the channel, don't forget to subscribe.